Welcome to the Beyond You podcast, where we have real conversations about healing, trusting yourself again, and building the kind of relationships that actually feel good. I'm Samantha, and if you've ever felt like you're just going through the motions, like you're doing all the right things but still feeling disconnected, you're in the right place. Because here we go beyond the surface, beyond the hurt, beyond the patterns that keep you stuck. So take a deep breath, get comfortable, and let's get into it. Hey, beautiful. Today we are diving into something that so many of us experience, but no one rarely talks about this. That confusing, sometimes shameful feeling of missing someone who hurt you. And I think a lot of times we think that missing someone means that we need to get him back or we need to be able to reconcile with them in some way. And so we're going to be talking about this. So take a deep breath with me for a moment. Just land here in this safe space we're creating together. Because you know that feeling when your logical mind knows someone wasn't good for you, knows the pain they caused you, knows the relationship wasn't healthy, but your heart still aches for them. You still reach for your phone to text them. You still see something that reminds you of them and feel that pang in your chest. And then comes the shame spiral, right? That no one really talks about. What's wrong with me? Why do I miss someone who treated me this way? Am I that desperate? That broken? Like, we ask ourselves all these questions. And if you've ever been beating yourself up for missing someone who hurt you, whether it's an ex, a friend who betrayed you, a family member who let you down, I want you to know something right now. There is nothing wrong with you. This experience is deeply human, and we don't allow ourselves to give ourselves that grace for this experience, because missing someone who hurts you doesn't mean you're weak or that you lack self-respect. It doesn't mean you're destined to repeat patterns or that you secretly enjoy being mistreated. It simply means you have a heart that connected deeply, and that connection doesn't just disappear because your mind has recognized the relationship wasn't healthy. So today we're going to talk about why this happens, why it feels so confusing, and most importantly, how to move through it with compassion rather than shame. Because healing doesn't mean you never miss them. It means you know how to hold that missing without letting it pull you back into something that wasn't serving your highest good. So if you've been struggling with these feelings, know that you're not alone. That's where we come every week, every Wednesday on this podcast, so you understand that I've been there too, and that I'm here with you to help you through this. And there's a way through that doesn't require you to deny your feelings or shame yourself for having them. So let's get started. So first, I want to start off with why we miss people who hurt us, because a lot of times we don't really know why that's the case, and sometimes we're people who like to know the reason behind everything. Let's just start with that first. So let's start by understanding why we miss people who hurt us, because there's actually some powerful brain science behind this experience. It's not just you being too emotional or not over it yet, which I hear a lot within just my sessions or the community. Because first, understand that our brains are wired for attachment and connection. So from our earliest moments, we're designed to bond with others as survival mechanism, right? And we're not supposed to do life alone. We want to be able to have connection. Those bonds don't simply dissolve when someone hurts you or just hurts us in general. The attachment system in our brain doesn't immediately get the memo that this person is no longer safe or healthy for you. And second, many difficult relationships, especially those romantic ones, involve something called intermittent reinforcement, right? And so this happens when the positive experiences in the relationship, so the affection, the connection, the good times comes unpredictable, mixed in with the painful experience. So believe it or not, this inconsistent pattern of reward actually creates a stronger bond than consistent positive experiences. It's the same mechanism that makes gambling so addictive, right? You just never know when the next reward is coming. So you keep coming back, hoping this time will be different, right? Like our mind is just kind of set up that way, just kind of that roller coaster I talk about when you've been in sessions. So understand, I remember being in a relationship where one day he'd be so attentive and present, making me feel like the most important person in the world. And the next day he'd be cold, distant, or even cruel at times. So that unpredictability kept me hooked far longer than a consistently loving relationship would have, because I was always chasing the good version of him. I'm using that quotation marks because you guys know what I'm talking about. And always hoping the next day would bring the connection back. So does this pattern sound familiar to you? Because many of us have experienced this roller coaster, and it creates powerful neural pathways that don't just disappear once the relationship ends. And third, we often miss the potential we saw in the person or the relationship, not the reality of what it actually was. We miss what could have been if they changed, if circumstances had been different, if they'd followed through on the promises that they made during the good times. And this is especially true if there were glimpses of that potential. Moments when they did show up, when they were vulnerable, when you felt truly seen and valued, those moments can become magnified in our memories, while the painful parts fade with time. And for those of us who are natural nurturers, like I see you, who see the best in others, who are empathetic to people's struggles and wounds, which is often true for so many of us, especially those raised in cultures that value caregiving, this attachment to potential can be particularly strong. You saw who they could be beneath their defenses and hurtful behaviors. You felt their pain alongside your own, and letting go of your hope for that feeling can feel almost like abandoning them. Finally, we miss the parts of ourselves that came alive in the relationship. Maybe this person, despite their hurtful behaviors, helped you access a playfulness you hadn't felt since childhood. Or maybe they appreciated aspects of you that others hadn't seen or valued. Maybe the intensity of the connection, even with its painful elements, it made you feel more alive, more seen, more real than other relationships had. So when we lose the relationship, we fear losing the parts of ourselves too. We fear returning to less vibrant, less alive version of who we are. But I want you to understand these dynamics. Understand this, because it doesn't mean you need to go back to someone who hurt you, but it does help explain why the missing persists even when your logical mind knows the relationship wasn't healthy. So understand that it's not a character flaw or a sign you're doing healing wrong, okay? It's a natural response to how human connection works in our brains and our hearts. And so next we're going to go into just a second kind of segment, right? The shame spiral and how to break free from it. Because now I really want to get into about just what often happens next. The shame spiral. You miss them and then you immediately start criticizing yourself for missing them. I should be over this by now. What's wrong with me that I still care about someone who hurt me? I must be so desperate to still want someone who didn't even treat me well. Sound familiar? And so this internal criticism usually comes from a protective place, a part of you trying to keep you from going back to something painful, but the shame doesn't actually help you heal. In fact, it often makes the missing more intense, more confusing, and more likely to lead to behaviors of regret, like reaching out when you've committed to no contact. And here's why, okay? When we feel ashamed of our emotions, we tend to push them away rather than processing them. We try to talk ourselves out of them or distract ourselves from them, but emotions that aren't processed don't just disappear. They go underground, gaining strength in the shadows. So a lot of times what happens is that you might feel like you'll feel numb is when you kind of realize this is happening, because you pushed our emotions down so much that we feel like we don't even feel anything. Like we allowed ourselves to just kind of continue to detach to help her get through difficult emotional experiences. So definitely understand, I definitely get that. So it's like trying to hold a beach ball underwater when we do this though. You can push it down for a while, but eventually your arms get tired. And when the ball finally escapes your grasp, it explodes to the surface with even more force than if you just let it float in the first place. So how do we break this shame spiral and actually process the feelings of missing someone? Because first, recognize that missing someone who hurt you doesn't negate your worth or your growth. It doesn't erase your boundaries or the wisdom you've gained. It simply means you're human, with a heart that formed attachments that take time to rewire. I remember working with a client who was so frustrated with herself for missing her ex, who had repeatedly betrayed her trust. I know exactly what he did, she told me. And she had receipts. She's written down all the times he lied to me. So she wanted to know, so why do I still miss him? Why do I still check his social media at 2 a.m.? And this is what I told her. I told her is what I want to tell you. Missing someone isn't the same as wanting the relationship back. It isn't a sign you've forgotten what happened or that you're willing to settle for less than you deserve. It's simply your heart acknowledging connection that mattered. Second, I want you to try replacing shame with curiosity. Instead of what's wrong with me for missing them, I want you to ask, what specifically am I missing right now? And what I'd like to tell my clients in general, I need you to finish the story. A lot of times I miss the conversation, I miss the laughs, but I want you to finish exactly what will happen afterwards. So if it's something of, oh, I missed them, I want to call them. And then what? I need you to finish the story. What will happen next after you do that? So you miss them and then you call them and then you might fall back in and then he'll do the same thing again and then you'll have to get out of it. Like, finish the story. And so with that, I want you to be able to ask yourself, is it the companionship and not feeling alone? Is it the way they understood certain parts of you? Like, really think about, what are you exactly missing? Is it the role you got to play in their life? Is it the future you had envisioned together? Like, getting specific helps. You see that you're not actually missing the whole person and all their hurtful behaviors. You're missing particular experiences, feelings, or even parts of yourself that came alive in the relationship. And once you identify those specific elements, you can start exploring how to meet those needs in a healthier ways. So third, recognize that grief isn't linear. There's no timeline when you're supposed to be over it by now. Healing happens in layers. And sometimes you'll revisit emotions you thought you'd already processed, and understand that it's not because you're regressing, but because you're ready to release another layer. So one of the most powerful practices I found for breaking the shame spiral is what I call just compassion witnessing. It looks like this. So when you notice yourself missing the person, place the hand on your heart and say, I'm missing them right now, and that's okay. It doesn't mean I'm going back. It just means my heart is healing. Right? I think we allow ourselves to look at it a little bit differently. We can give ourselves permission to know that I can still miss someone and know they're not good for me. Like, both can be true. You don't have to choose one or the other. And so understand, just my people, right, who come from cultures where emotional expression was sometimes seen as a luxury or even a weakness, where you were taught to be strong, to push through, to keep going no matter what, this practice of compassionate witnessing might feel especially just uncomfortable. But it's a powerful act of reclaiming your right to feel, to grieve, to honor your own emotional experience without apology. Your feelings deserve that space. They deserve that acknowledgement, not because dwelling in them is helpful, but because moving through them requires first allowing them to be. So now I want to get into practical ways to cope with missing someone, because I want you to be able to have things to be able to take with you from this. So we're going to talk about the practical ways to cope with missing someone who hurts you. So strategies that honor your feelings while also supporting your healing and forward movement. First, create a missing journal. This is a private space where you can express all those feelings of longing and grief without judgment. Sometimes just getting the emotions out of your head and onto paper can reduce their intensity and help you see patterns more clearly. So you might notice, for example, that you tend to miss the person more intensely when you're tired, stressed, or even feeling vulnerable for other reasons. This awareness helps you to recognize when you need extra self-care rather than contact with the person you're missing. So one client found it helpful to create 2 columns in her journal, just what I miss and what I don't miss. This balanced perspective helped her remember why the relationship ended and counteract the tendency to idolize the past when the missing got intense. So second, I want you to honor the missing without acting on it. Okay, without acting on it. So missing someone is a feeling. It's not an action plan. You can acknowledge the emotion without reaching out, checking their social media, or finding ways to run into them accidentally. I find it helpful to set a specific time period. Okay. So, for example, maybe 10 minutes to fully feel the missing. Put on a song that captures the emotion. Look at a photo if that helps. And just let yourself feel it completely. Then, when the time is up, intentionally shift to an activity that grounds you in your present life. This contained approach gives the feeling space without letting them take over your whole day. It's like saying to your heart, I hear you, I'm not ignoring you, and we're not letting this feeling make decisions for us. Third, identify and meet the underlying needs that you're having. Often, when we miss someone, there are specific needs that the relationship met. Needs for connection, for understanding, for feeling desired or appreciated in particular ways. So I want you to be able to ask yourself, what specific needs was this person meeting for me? And how can I meet those needs in a healthier ways now? If you miss a deep conversation, think about, can you nurture friendships where that kind of connection is possible? If you miss feeling desired, can you explore your own sensuality or consider dating when you're ready? If you miss their encouragement of your goals, can you find a community that supports your growth? So this isn't about replacing the person as if people are interchangeable. It's about recognizing that your legitimate needs for connection, understanding, and appreciation can be met in many different contexts, and ideally in ones that don't come with the same hurtful dynamics. Fourth, I want you to create new associations. If certain places, songs, or activities trigger intense missing because they're strongly associated with the person, work on creating new positive associations for those triggers. Visit that cafe you used to go to together, but bring a supportive friend and create a new memory there. Listen to your song while doing something empowering or joyful. Over time, these new experiences can help rewire the associations in your brain. Number 5, maintaining no contact when possible. This might seem obvious, but it's worth emphasizing maintaining no contact or minimal contact if you share children or have other ties that require some communication. It's crucial when you're missing someone who hurt you. Each time you check their social media, each message you send just to see how they're doing, each accidental run you engineer these reset your healing clock and intensify the missing. They keep the attachment system activated rather than allowing it to gradually reset. I know this is easier said than done. I'm fully aware of this. I remember the intense urge to reach out to an ex the way I could rationalize that it was just a friendly check-in, nothing more. But those moments of contact, while providing temporary relief from the missing, ultimately prolong the process of letting go. So if you've broken no contact, and many of us have at some point, don't use it as evidence that you're failing at healing. Simply acknowledge it as a detour, recommit to your boundaries, and keep moving forward. Healing isn't a perfect linear process. 6, I want you to seek professional support if the missing becomes overwhelming. Sometimes missing someone who hurt you can be so intense that it interferes with your daily functioning or leads to behaviors that compromise your well-being, like using substances to numb the pain or repeatedly returning to a relationship you know is harmful. In these cases, work with a therapist or coach who specializes in attachment, grief, or trauma can be valuable. They can help you understand the roots of your attachment style, process any trauma bonds that might be present, and develop personalized strategies for moving forward. And this isn't a sign of weakness, it's a sign of courage and commitment to your healing. Some wounds benefit from the support of a guide who can help us navigate them with greater ease and clarity. And finally, perhaps most importantly, be patient and gentle with yourself through this process. Missing someone who hurt you can be a long road with progress that isn't always visible day to day. There will be good days where you barely think of them and hard days where the missing feels as fresh as it did in the beginning. This doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong or that you'll always feel this way. It just means you're human with a heart that loved deeply and is now learning a new way of being. Trust that with time, with self-compassion, with consistent boundaries, the missing will gradually transform. It may never disappear completely. Some people leave imprints in our hearts that last a lifetime, but it will change form. The sharp pain will soften. The consuming thoughts will be quiet. The longing will make room for new connections, new experiences, new joys. Your heart is not broken. It's breaking open to a new capacity for love, including love for yourself. And number 4, the wisdom in the missing. I'd like to invite you into a brief, just moment of reflection if that feels right for you. So know that you're allowed to understand that this missing is just a part of my healing, not a detour from it. That you can honor what was beautiful without returning to what was harmful. I want you to be able to let yourself know that I trust myself to hold both the love and the lessons. I'm exactly where I need to be on this journey. So overall, there's wisdom in missing someone who hurts you, wisdom that's often hard to access when we're caught in shame or self-criticism about these feelings. The missing person can show us where we still have healing to do, what unmet needs we're carrying, what parts of ourselves we fear losing with the relationship. It can reveal our attachment patterns, your beliefs about love and worthiness, our capacity for forgiveness, both of ourselves and others. But there's another layer of wisdom here too, one that we rarely talk about. Sometimes missing someone who hurts you is your heart's way of honoring the complexity of human relationships. It's an acknowledgement that people aren't all good or all bad, that someone can cause genuine harm while also offering genuine gifts, right? That said, and they can have both. The person you're missing may have hurt you, betrayed you, failed you in significant ways, and they may have also seen parts of you that others missed, supported dreams that others dismissed, or shown up for you in moments of need that you still feel grateful for. But holding this complexity, this both and reality of human connection, it's part of mature loving. It's part of developing the capacity to see people in their fullness without either idealizing them or demonizing them when they disappoint us. This doesn't mean excusing harmful behavior or returning to relationships that compromise your well-being. It means allowing your heart to hold the truth of the connection, the pain and the joy, the harm and the growth, the reasons you left and the reasons it's still hard sometimes. For those of us who've learned to think in black and white terms about relationships, they're either good for you or bad for you, with no room for the messy gray areas of real human connection. This complexity with someone who thinks in black and white can be especially challenging to navigate, because we fear that if we acknowledge that we miss, that we still love, what we're still grateful for, it somehow negates the validity of our boundaries or our decision to leave. But I just want you to keep this in mind. You can miss someone and still know you made the right choice in ending the relationship. You can love parts of who they are or who they were and still recognize that the relationship wasn't healthy for you. You can forgive them and still choose not to have them in your life. Those aren't contradictions. They're just the natural complexities of a heart that's learning to love with eyes wide open, seeing clearly both what nourishes you and what depletes you, and choosing your well-being even when that choice carries genuine grief. So instead of fighting the missing or shaming yourself for it, what if you welcome it as a teacher? What if you let it show you both what you truly need in a relationship and what you're no longer willing to compromise on? Because that's the deeper invitation here, to let your experience of missing someone who hurt you clarify your vision for the relationships you want to create in the future. Relationships where you don't have to choose between being loved and being respected, between connection and safety, between vulnerability and boundaries. You deserve connections that honor all of who you are. And sometimes, paradoxically, it's the experience of missing someone who couldn't offer that completeness that clarifies just how unwilling you are to settle for less again. So as we come to this close of our time together, I just want to acknowledge the courage it takes to sit with these complex feelings of missing someone who hurt you, to neither deny them nor let them drive your decisions, but to hold them with compassion and wisdom. This middle path, this messy area isn't easy. It would be simpler in some ways to just shut down your heart or to give in to the missing person and reaching out despite knowing better. But you're choosing the more nuanced path of honoring your feelings while also honoring your boundaries. And that choice takes courage. I just want to celebrate you for even coming to the end here. So if today's conversation resonates with you, can you just share it with someone who really needs this? And also love to invite you to sign up for a weekly newsletter where we share this type of information every Wednesday as well, and giving you tips just kind of be able to tangibly hold on to. And I share intimate reflections, practical tools on my Substack as well. If you want behind the scenes of what's going on or what I'm feeling, that's completely different, kind of short things to take for yourself. And that will be just in my link. You can always have that. And you definitely can subscribe, get the show notes before it even comes out, and it's completely free. And I also love to hear from you. What has helped you navigate the experience of missing someone who wasn't healthy for you? What wisdom have you found in that space? I want you to share insights, comments, or connect with me on Instagram as well at IamSamantha.a. Remember, healing isn't about never missing them. It's about knowing how to hold that missing without letting it pull you backward. It's about trusting that your heart can feel deeply without losing its wisdom. It's about recognizing that your capacity to love, even when that love includes pain, is not a weakness but one of your greatest strengths. You're not doing healing wrong if you still miss someone who hurts you. You're simply navigating the beautiful, messy reality of being human with a heart that connects deeply and authentically. Keep trusting that heart of yours. Keep listening to its wisdom, and keep choosing yourself, your peace, and your growth, even on the days when that choice comes with grief. Until next time, remember, your heart's capacity to miss someone is the same capacity that will allow you to love deeply again. But next time, with the wisdom to choose connections that honor both your tenderness and your boundaries, both your capacity to give and your right to receive. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your courage. Thank you for every step you take toward loving with your whole heart and your whole truth. Until next time, see you next week.